Hello, my name is Professor Kentaro Iwata. I am a specialist of infectious diseases at Kobe University Hospital, Kobe, Japan. Today, I entered into the cruise ship Diamond Princess, which is bombarded by a lot of COVID-19 infection right now. And I was removed from the ship on the same day. And I'm going to talk to you why this happened. I was very concerned of the number of the people who got infected with COVID-19 disease infection. Then I was wondering why this is happening. I wanted to enter into the cruise ship and wanted to be useful in helping to containing infection there. And I spoke with several people, and finally the one officer at working for Ministry of Health and Labor called me yesterday saying that, well, you can come and enter into the cruise ship and do the infection control work. Then I said, fine. Then I prepared my stuff and did all the paperwork and arrangement, and they got onto the Shinkansen from Kobe to Yokohama. On the way to go to Yokohama, I got another call from the same officer saying that somebody didn't like me, so you can't get into the cruise ship. He was not able to say who, and he was not able to say why. But certainly some power over him affected his decision, and I was blocked from entering into the ship. Then after several discussions, he found another way that if you could come as one of the DMAT member, you can come in into the cruise ship. DMAT is the disaster management medical team in Japan and usually deals with disaster, not infectious diseases. But because of the lack of the people who could help people inside the cruise ship to get out of the ship or the managing a fever and so on and so on, DMAT was requested to enter into the cruise ship. Because my specialty is not disaster management, so I was not very happy about that, but because there was no other way, I said, fine, I'll do that. Additionally, I got another call that some people didn't like me getting into the cruise ship even as a DMAT member. So another discussion happened, then I waited about 1 hour in Shin Yokohama Station, then finally the officer found a way that if you work for DMAT not as an infection prevention specialist, but as the ordinary routine DMAT officer working under one of the DMAT doctor doing a routine job, then you could come enter the cruise ship. I was not very happy with that decision, but because there's no other way, so I said, fine, then I'll get into the ship. I entered the ship, then I found the chief officer of the DMAT and spoke with him. I said, well, I was assigned to a DMAT member, so I'll do whatever you want to say. He said, well, you don't have to work DMAT work because that's not your specialty, and you are infection prevention specialist, so why don't you do the infection control? Then I said, fine. I spoke with the superior of him, who is in charge of all the DMAT operation, and he also said that you are infection control person, so you should do infection control. I said, fine. But he said, well, you shouldn't be here as a DMAT member, you should come as the infection control specialist. He was not very happy about while I was inside the DMAT, but because that was not my decision, there was no other way. So I said, well, I have to do it. I looked into the several places inside the ship, and turned out that the cruise ship was completely inadequate in terms of the infection control. There was no distinction between the green zone, which is free of infection, and the red zone, which is potentially contaminated by virus. So the people could come and go wearing a PPE, off PPE. Crews were just walking around, and the officers of Ministry of Health and Labor was walking around. DMAT people were walking around. Psychiatrists were walking around. And the people were eating on one place, people were wearing PPE and off PPE and eating lunch with the gloves on and just dealing with the smartphone with full PPE, so it was completely chaotic. And some crews had a fever. They went to the medical center while wearing an N95 mask, but he didn't have any protection between his room and the medical room. And the medical officer was not protecting herself, and she was very unhappy, saying that, well, she was already infected. I'm sure about that. So she was completely giving up protecting herself. Anyways, I dealt with a lot of infections more than 20 years, and I was in Africa dealing with the Ebola outbreak. I was in another countries dealing with the cholera outbreak. I was in China in 2003 to deal with SARS, and I saw many febrile patients there. I never had fear of getting infection myself for Ebola, SARS, cholera, because I know how to protect myself and how to protect others and how the infection control should be. And so I could do the adequate infection control, protect myself, and protect others. But inside Princess Diamond, I was so scared. I was so scared of getting COVID-19 because there was no way to tell where the virus is. No green zone, no red zone. Everywhere could have virus and everybody was not careful about it. There was no single professional infection control person inside the ship, and there was nobody in charge of infection prevention as a professional. The bureaucrats were in charge of everything, and I spoke with the head officer of the Ministry of Health and Labor, and he was very unhappy with my suggestion of protecting DMARC people and other staffs so that no other secondary transmission to occur. Then after several hours of talking to people and finding problems, I found a lot of issues there. For example, informed consent of getting a PCR from the people in the ship was on a paper, and that paper was going back and forth with the room of the infection from the paper by touching there. So I suggested that maybe it's better to abandon the paper type informed consent, but rather the getting informed consent verbally would be more protective, and so on and so on. So I think I was reasonable, and I never yell at anybody, and I never criticize anybody personally, but I was trying to be constructive, but they tried to seek the constructive but immediate improvement to protect everybody inside the ship. Then, about 5 o'clock, the person from the quarantine office came in and approached, said, well, you have to be out because you will not be allowed to inside the ship, because I was inside the ship as the temporary officer of the quarantine, but apparently my rank was removed by somebody, and nobody said who, but I was out. And the officer who offered me the job of infection control said he was sorry. Then I asked him, so what do you want to do? Do you want to infect everybody in the ship? It will be thousands of people who could potentially get COVID-19. I don't criticize DMARC people. They were not infection control specialists. Society of Infection Prevention entered a lot of specialists came in, but they spent only a few days and left. And they said they were fearful of getting infections themselves. I share the same fear because I'm in a single room now, and I'm separated from my family. I'm very scared of getting infection myself, and I'm very scared of infecting my family too. I'll be out of my medical service at Kobe University Hospital for maybe next 2 weeks to avoid further infections to occur. That is very likely to occur if you keep zero infection control inside the ship, Diamond Princess, like this. you might know that there is no CDC in Japan, but I thought there must be some specialist called on and was in charge of infection control in a ship. I was not expecting nobody was professional infection control specialist, and only the bureaucrats were doing the jobs, completely layman's work, and violating all the infection control principles and risking people inside further infections. So I'm not very surprised to see many new positive PCRs to be broadcasted every day. Hundreds of people got infected, and lots of people from outside Japan decided to take their people away from the ship and bring them to their home countries by airplane and offer them another 14 days of quarantine. I hope this will be the opportunity to raise the question what is happening inside the ship. I wish all the international bodies to request Japan to change. I wish everybody to call for protection of people inside the Diamond Princess. Otherwise, there will be far more infections for passengers, for crews, for DMAT members, for psychiatrists, for officers of the Ministry of Health and Labor. DMAT members consist of nurses and doctors, and they will go back to their hospitals they work routinely, and they might infect their patients further to spread and the disease. I can't bear with it. I can't bear with it. I think we have to change. We have to do something about this cruise, and we have to help people inside the ship, their safety and their life. Again, I'm Professor Kentaro Iwata, infectious diseases specialist. Thank you for the listening.